in there. So, first of all, to you, Miles Allen. You heard both of our politicians there talking about climate change, talking about the UK's approach. What's your reaction to their level of commitment?
Well, they're both trying to make the best of it, of the situation we're in. But, I mean, I think we also need to be real with people about where we are. I mean, when we discovered the need for net zero emissions 15 years ago, we just burned through each of these little, in case you're wondering, each of these little lumps of coal represents 500 billion tonnes of fossil carbon.
Okay.
And if you burn it and dump all the CO2 in the atmosphere, that causes 1 degree of global warming. So when we first discovered the need for net zero 15 years ago, we just burned through the first 500 billion tonnes.
Okay.
That took us 250 years.
Okay.
15 years later, we're 1/3 of the way through the next 500 billion tonnes, burning it as fast as ever, and that one will take us to 2 degrees. And in the meantime, we've decided that actually we'd like to stop at 1.5. So the thing that I would love for all of these politicians to acknowledge is we have to stop fossil fuels from causing global warming before the world stops using fossil fuels.
But some climate activists would say that that is a controversial thing to say, that it should be, let's get rid of fossil fuels, let's get off the addiction to carbon. But you're saying there isn't time to do that.
It would be great if we could all just say no to fossil fuels. But fossil abstinence isn't working. We need to stop the problem at source, and it's perfectly possible to use fossil fuels without causing global warming. You just have to stop putting the carbon dioxide they generate into the atmosphere. The cost of capturing every single molecule of carbon dioxide generated by the natural gas we use in the UK would be 4 pence per kilowatt hour. We currently pay on average, the energy price cap is 34 pence. And yet nobody's asking the fossil fuel companies that supply us with that gas to deal with the carbon dioxide they generate in that way.
Well, I think you've just set down a big time for something slightly different. We have been talking about prosperity and the prospects for the planet this morning, which might make you think of live long and prosper, which was Spock's famous blessing in the Star Trek series. And last year, science fiction became real when William Shatner, Captain Kirk, reached the final frontier at the age of 90, travelling into space on Jeff Bezos' spaceship. I've been talking to the actor, who's also a keen environmentalist, who's just written a book, Boldly Go, where he revealed how his trip to space made him feel about planet Earth.
So finally we got up and everybody played around in weightlessness. I made my way to the window, and for some reason, I looked behind me.
Oh, wow.
And I saw the wake of the spaceship through the air, like a submarine going through the water.
I can't believe this.
I thought, wow, I've never heard anybody talk about that. And then I looked ahead of me and I saw the blackness of space. And I've had a great deal to do with space, you know, and I've talked to scientists and I've looked through telescopes and I've loved the mystery of space. But that blackness had nothing to it. There was no alleviating mystery there. The only mystery was how palpably black it was. And in that moment, I thought I saw death. When I looked back there and I saw the beige of the desert that we had just left and the white clouds and the blue sky, I saw life. So death, life. And then that was my overwhelming feeling until we got back. And when I stepped off of the spaceship, I started to cry.
What you have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary, extraordinary.
I was weeping and I had no idea why. And I was just so confused that I had to sit down for several minutes when I realized I was in grief. And what was I in grief about? I've been an ecologist for a long time, and I realized I was in grief for the world.
You write in your book about the fragility of Earth and how everything in nature is connected, and how if we remove any of those links, everything ends up endangered.
That's what I think the point of my book is, the interconnection of people to nature, of nature to the universe. And I tried to give that sense of vibration being aware of how connected we all are and how to tune in to that vibrating universe. That's what I think the book is about.
It is about that, but it's also about the impact you fear the human race is having on the planet and how you see that accelerating.
We don't realize how close we are to total destruction. We are on the edge of a precipice. It isn't like, oh, we're wandering along a path and maybe we should turn off the path. We're about to go over the edge. We're killing ourselves. That's the imperative of what it is. Are you worried about? No, I'm not worried about it. I'm in the agony of my kids, my grandkids. It's just terrible. And everybody's saying, well, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, and we'll get to do something soon. And we're at war. The war is using up all our energies that should be going to taking care of the earth. We're destroying. It's just the madness, the insanity of it is just plagues me to the degree of anger and sorrow.
Why, though, is it the right thing for there to be a sort of billionaire space race? Should people be engaging in space travel for fun, as you did, given the amount of resources and carbon that uses?
One element of getting into space, though, which is Jeff Bezos' idea, which is to get all the polluting industries up into 200-300 miles into orbit and have our industry up there, polluting up there where it doesn't matter, and get the people and have the people live up there and have the people come down onto Earth, which is now green and non-polluting and like it was before the Industrial Revolution or something like that. So I said, well, that's 100 years from now. He said, well, got to have hope. Without hope, what do you got?
And tell me more about how the journey into space in real life changed how you think of your own sense of mortality.
It made me this emotional thing you're looking at right now. So I saw the curvature of the earth, and everybody talks about it, but if I continue the circle it with my finger, I could circle this little rock that we're all living on. We're on this little insignificant rock, going around an insignificant star in a somewhat insignificant Milky Way, and we're billions upon billions of what we can see, which only means what we can see, because it doesn't make sense to me that what we can see is all there is.
And finally, live long and prosper is that phrase you'll be very familiar with. You've certainly lived long and well and prospered in all sorts of ways. What's been your secret?
That's no secret. I mean, I think that as I get closer and closer to dying, I think I see how precious life is. And if only we could inculcate that we do, in our children. If only we keep that curiosity of children alive. I mean, just acquiring knowledge is in itself an adventure.
The amazing adventures of William Shatner and what he fears is at stake with the climate. That is it for us this morning. When it seemed that although politicians of all stripes say they want to ease the climate crisis, when it comes to action, that's not so straightforward. And the atmosphere is certainly very different to this time last year, when that huge climate get-together, COP in Glasgow, did have a real sense of urgency. We will be watching carefully to see what happens in Egypt and what is or is not agreed. Till then, thank you for watching and goodbye.